Hello and welcome to H2OMICS, the Calsense podcast that gives you insight into the smart irrigation and sustainability world. I'm Carolina Alban-Stoughton. Technology has played an important role in the evolution of landscape architecture, and it has provided better tools to address the needs of end users. From central control to mobile capabilities, landscape architects are better equipped than ever to face climate change, water scarcity, and economic challenges. In this episode, we are very excited to have two guests out of the great state of Texas. Sebastian is project manager and licensed irrigator at landscape architecture firm Valley Quest Design in Denton, Texas. He holds licensed irrigator credentials from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and has more than 16 years of experience managing various types and sizes of projects, landscape design, construction detailing, and irrigation design. David Garrison graduated from Texas Tech University with a Bachelor's of Landscape Architecture degree and completed his layered training to become a registered landscape architect. He spent the following 25 years practicing landscape design and build and irrigation, successfully completing more than 3,000 residential and commercial projects. He is also a Texas licensed irrigator and has been in irrigation sales for more than 14 years. And of course, he currently works for Calsense in technical sales in North Texas. This is a lot of combined experience, and I'm very excited to have you both as guests. Ray and David, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you both. And in all these years that you have spent in landscape architecture, what kind of technology advancements have you seen develop that have impacted your industry the most? And I'm going to start with you, David.
Well, a lot like moving from hand drawings to computer-aided design, a lot of advancements I've seen is just the movement to the digital age. Central control systems for irrigation where you can measure and observe how a system's operating just, from a remote location. I think that's, as far as in the landscape itself, one of the few things, other than lighting and some other things that typically has the potential to be operated from, really anywhere in the world. And then also to take that to a weather-based system where, basically these things were typically just run on a start time, duration, and frequency are now actually able to change on a daily basis, based on the weather and how it affects the plant material.
That is very interesting. Ray, is there anything else that you've seen in all these years working in landscape architecture?
Yeah, I agree with David. Both of those are very valuable to the industry. I also have saw a big push for two-wire systems. There's a big technology advancement in those systems and the controllers that operate them. It saves a lot of money in copper since copper is so expensive. Also, it has the flexibility that you can add valves at any time as long as you don't go over the station count. It's very flexible and a very nice asset to a project within whenever needed.
In ever-changing times, adaptability is quite important.
Correct, very much so. Wi-Fi and mobile device technology, mobile devices are almost in everybody's hand all over the world, and having that capability to be able to operate a system, to be able to monitor a system and be able to check up and make sure everything's good to go is very, very important and critical. It saves on man hours, not having to send somebody physically out to the site to check on a system when most of the time you can view it on your either computer or your mobile device and just be able to see if anything's going on, to see if you need to send somebody out there. And a lot of with that communication is also Wi-Fi, the capabilities of hooking it up with an internet connection and hooking it up to a network and being able to communicate through Wi-Fi. It's a lot cleaner and has been very easy on installation to be able to use this capability.
Yeah, and you know what? You've brought up some really good points, which actually lead me to my next question. Let's talk about the main challenges that your industry is currently facing when designing and planning landscape.
There are many challenges. I know first and foremost for Texas, water shortage and water restrictions is probably at the top of the list. Being able to use technology to help monitor some of this is great. But though I know water shortage, we're not making any more water. We're able to make some more reservoirs, to hold water, but we have so many people moving into Texas that we're having to ration water the best we can. And I know that is it's on everybody's radar, at least it should be, to try to conserve water. Another challenge is labor shortages. Since COVID, I know that there's been a lot of workforce difficulties of being able to staff your company enough to be able to get to projects in a timely manner and to be able to complete projects in a timely manner. And so I know that's a big struggle for companies to be able to have the proper staff and trained staff in order to get projects completed.
David, what do you think?
No, I think those are big issues here. Water and labor. It's they're very limiting, and we do need to be very conscious of those things. And some of our other challenges is just education. A lot of people are resistant to change, unless there's some sort of reward for them. It's very difficult to get people to buy into some of the new advances. As far as property managers, anybody that's writing a check for projects, I think it's pretty easy, with water savings, or if they're, again, manpower limitations, it's if you can reduce the amount of labor that it takes to manage something, I think they see some of the immediate benefits. But particularly like at the contractor end, I think that there's some resistance to, learning some of the newer products and staying, well educated on them. And sometimes they may make recommendations kind of based on some older technology. Maybe they're thinking that they're going to save somebody some money now, but it may actually increase the operating cost long term. And so, we as an industry, I think have worked very hard in providing education, but it's something that I think continually needs to be addressed.
So David, so tell us then, how can technology help address these and all the other problems or challenges that you guys have mentioned, especially so when it comes to education? How do you address that?
Well, I mean, we've seen, during like COVID, how, just even, communications like we're having today, where we can meet with people all over the world at a given time with video. Those are some pretty quick advancements over the last few years that just weren't really used prior to that, as far as like the general public. But these technologies we're a connected world, an internet of things, and the ability to regulate the temperature in your house, with your phone, or allow it to make decisions for you. These type of technologies are also in the irrigation world, where, again, fewer and fewer people are required to actually operate a system. It's all brought in. That information is measured and it's available on a dashboard where a single person can see, if it's a dozen or even hundreds of controllers, how they're operating. They can get alerts and warnings and just, allow the system to direct them, their attention to what needs to be done. And, the technology, you can share that information with somebody. If you have a challenge with it, you can, again, with the computers and internet dashboards, you can share that with somebody if you have a question and you need to get a tech, but you don't necessarily have to send somebody out to the field, pull them off of another project and go look at something. I think that in itself is, is very powerful.
Yeah, so we have addressed, the education and the labor shortages, but Ray, maybe you can follow up with how can technology address the water shortages and the restrictions? What kind of technology helps you do that?
I think being able to better manage how we're watering. The restrictions are put in place to conserve water. And yes, that does happen. I agree it does. But I think that if we're being more efficient with the way that we water and the way that we are accomplishing these tasks, that we have so much technology, but several of the things that we mentioned are great ways through central control or using the weather or being able to better manage your property with your mobile device or computer, or being able to generate a work order for somebody to go out and fix something that's broken so that we're not wasting water and it's not just running down the street. There's so many avenues for us to use to accomplish this, and the technology is definitely there.
Mm-hmm. David, if you can just follow up maybe to what Ray said with is maybe discussing a little bit more weather-based technology.
Yes.
How are these systems helping address those challenges?
Yeah, I think that particularly here in Texas, the communities kind of went through kind of a blanket, like 2-day-a-week water restrictions. A lot of that, I think it was kind of a simple fix, but it also, I think, created some challenges. It worked well for people that really weren't managing much in their water, but for other people that were, very attentive to what they're doing, it really reduced a lot of their flexibility. And so these weather-based systems, allow, you to use less water when there's less demand. And, and here we typically have a reservoir system. So, water saved in the spring or in the fall or over the winter should be available in the summer when our demand is higher. And so that could, allow for, again, higher water use, when the plants need it, and greater levels of conservation when they don't. I've seen situations where, you can't use predictive, if you think that a weather system's going to come through and you've got to water on a certain day and maybe it's a 60-70% chance of rain, you may not be able to gamble on that. You may go ahead and water because you can't water again for 4 more days. And I've seen that as a challenge. And so, using a weather-based system that, again, is more on plant demand, I think it gives a lot better opportunities to manage, more flexibility to manage these irrigation systems.
Yeah. So that being said, with all these challenges and all this technology, what are the kinds of projects that are in more demand, Ray? And I want to start with you. for this one?
We're seeing a lot of city parks. We're doing a lot of park renovations. I've saw new parks being designed and put in, and there's a big demand and push for that. People want to be outside. I think with COVID, a lot of people got a taste of being shut indoors and being forced to stay in one place and not being able to have the freedoms to go out and enjoy these green spaces and these creative niches for us to be able to go out and enjoy fresh air and having time with the family and friends. And I think it's just that's a huge push right now. And I think it has been for years, but I think more so now with more and more people coming in, moving into the area, it's gonna grow substantially more. There's also a lot of inefficient systems out there. There's a demand right now to bring a lot of them up to, I guess, more up to par. I think that being able to go through and manage systems that maybe aren't operating, or maybe they're not using water wisely, maybe they're using more high demand irrigation nozzles, or maybe their system is just 20 years old and needs to be upgraded to something new, because as we've talked about, technology has grown in the past, even 5 to 10 years, and there's a lot of new and improved ways to water your yard. I think that also just starting with the basics and starting at the beginning, that upgrading our designs right off the bat is a great way to filter this down to the end user. And I know with the water shortages that we're having to find new ways to water here in Texas. And I know using technology to accomplish that would be rainwater harvesting. I know that we've been catching AC condensate water. We've been catching roof drain water, trying to utilize those in order to supplement some of the water that we're not able to use because it's not there in the summers. With 1-day waterings or even 2-day waterings, like David was talking about earlier, that's a challenge. It's a challenge to get all that water down in a short amount of time, and to be able to have to do that in 1 day is almost impossible. I mean, it just, there's not enough time in the day or the week that you're allowed to put all that down. And some of our areas have clay soils that you just cannot put that much water down at one time. Mm-hmm. And so it really is an issue. I think coming at it from a different perspective on our design and being creative about how we water, how we design the landscapes we use, I think all that's incorporated together and moving forward.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, especially when you talk about those older systems that need upgrading. I'm glad to hear that more people are asking for those upgrades, for sure, but it seems that there's definitely more to do. So what have you seen, David? What other projects you think are more in demand?
Well, I mean, like Ray was talking about, like city parks, but just, communities now seem to be, you used to see a lot of golf course communities, and that has really changed over to, like integrated green belts and natural areas and hiking and biking trails and, again, a lot more just individual directed kind of recreation, as opposed to, again, things like golf courses that use a lot of water, they take a lot of labor to operate, and a lot of the community. I think people are again looking just to get outside, get out with the family, get some fresh air. We're doing a lot more home officing and remote work that people are living in these communities more, and that's these planned developments. That's a big element that they tend to design around.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is something that I think it's not only probably you have not only seen, but it's also spiking at a national level. So as a profession, are landscape architects prepared to fulfill the current demands of the industry? What are the skills needed to be able to address bigger issues in landscaping, such as climate change? David, what do you think?
Well, landscape architect and they need to be able to communicate to a lot of different disciplines, whether it's engineers, architects, recreation people. There's a lot involved with it, but sustainability is key. The designs that you create, you need to make sure that they're not going to affect future generations in a negative way. And, that's, really a lot of the focus of the industry, but, just, cooler cities, things that, the cities, more shade on pavement. There's going to be a need for the cultivated landscape to help address some of the climate issues. And, that's where the landscape architect, needs to, be, integrated in the overall planning of, new developments, as well as regenerating older developments.
What have you seen, Ray, as far as when you're with all the years of experience you have, when you see a new generation of landscape architects, what should they be coming with in order to be successful with in the current landscape?
I think the flexibility to adapt, that it's not all just cut and dry. Sometimes we have to use our creativity. We need to be resourceful. Using our resources efficiently and effectively is very beneficial. I think the new crop of landscape architects coming in, I think really have some of those talents. And I think it just depends on which part of the field they go into is how they use those to be beneficial to the industry.
Yeah, and this is a great segue to our last question, which is, what does the future of landscape architecture look like? Any particular trends worth paying attention to in regards to technology or that profession itself?
I think that a lot has to do with really which who the owner is, who the end user is going to be, what is our end goal. I think layouts in design is crucial to how the whole project is pulled together. Being able to pick and choose where we're going to have parks, or where we're going to have maybe areas that are not mowed. We do a lot of natural areas that just have prairie grass, and once we get those established, that prairie grass is just out there. You can walk through it if you want, but we don't having to water it as much. I think that's a great way to utilize the property and save on water. I think also utilizing decomposed granite in areas, not necessarily, our landscapes don't necessarily have to be landscapes that are watered. You can be creative and incorporate river rock or decomposed granite or some type of non-green ground cover that would suffice the landscape look and feel of the entire project. We use a lot of boulder design. Boulders don't need a lot of water, so and they look great. And I think that using some of these, and I know nationwide, this is not new. Some of Arizona and California have already been doing this for years, and I think it's starting to hit home with Texas because with water shortages, we have no. This is new to Texas. We've got different residential subdivisions that they're being told water restrictions. They don't even know what that means because they've been able to water nonstop every day, all day long since the 60s. And some of those folks don't understand that that's too much water. They want their properties to look like a golf course, and everybody does. That's kind of the goal. Everybody wants it to look like that, but the price for that is very high when it comes to the water that we're using to accomplish that. I think that the industry also has created low water hybrid grasses, Bermuda grasses, that we can use that use 25% less of water than normal Bermuda. And they look great. It makes our turfs look green with a whole lot less water. And I think there's so many avenues for us as an industry to use technology, to use what some other cultures are using, some other states are using, even worldwide. We can branch out and find other ways to incorporate that into our designs.
Well, that's definitely very, very hopeful to know that all those alternatives exist. And I think it's going to come down to trying to promote them a little more so that people are comfortable adopting it. David, anything else to add about these larger issues that we're discussing as well when it comes to maybe even climate change?
Well, Ray was talking about, I think flexibility is key. Here in Dallas, I mean, we have years with 20-something inches of rain, and we have some years with 70 inches of rain, and it can, and that's a big swing. I mean, it goes from sometimes very wet to very dry, and working with plant material that can work on both spectrums is sometimes a challenge. Again, having irrigation systems that can adapt to those changing weather demands is, I think, important. Those are things that, again, I think it's a challenge. We can go from feast to famine here very quickly.
Yeah, from days of torrential rain to episodes of no rain, and I think also in maybe coastal cities or cities that are built around watersheds, also rising sea levels.
Yeah, I mean that's and a lot of our biggest cities are associated with the seaboard, and Houston is one down in South Texas. That's they have challenges not only with rising sea levels, but also of subsidence with the ground sinking, because they are pumping a lot of water from underneath the city, and that's causing them to sink and allowing for greater challenges when they do have hurricanes come through. So that's kind of a working both ends of it, in that just the demand for water has increased or it's allowing the sea level or the elevation to drop in the city, and then just with climate change and global warming, you're having sea level rise, and so it's again, those are serious challenges that cities like that, New Orleans and a lot of Florida, face.
Mm-hmm. Well, on a positive note, I'm definitely very glad, and I'm sure listeners will be very glad to hear what you guys have presented before, talking about how technology can actually help us manage all these changes that are happening to weather patterns across the nation and obviously globally. Thank you so very much, Ray and David, for providing so much valuable information.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you'd like to listen to other episodes, visit calsense.com/podcast or search for H2OMICS on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, I'm Carolina Alban Stoughton.